Good morning. Welcome to Facebook Live with Al and Kathy and our special guest this week. My name is Al.
And I'm Kathy.
And we've got a really awesome interview lined up for you today.
We sure do. We're going to learn a lot about Above and Beyond today.
We are. It's pretty exciting. So, how was your day yesterday?
It was good. So let me backtrack a little bit. You know, this weekend I went to pick up Aaron. My son just finished his first year of college. He finished at Alfred State, which is 4.5 hours away each way. I went to pick him up on Saturday, which ended up being a round trip 12-hour drive, you know, with the packing and stopping and whatnot.
But
it was great.
something exciting though. This is your last trip to Alfred.
This is our last trip to Alfred because he is going to be transferring to Binghamton in the fall. Which is great. Awesome. Yeah, he wants to continue with his Japanese studies, so he is going to be continuing at Binghamton. So yesterday when I got home from work, actually, Aaron, he had cheese and crackers set up for me when I walked in.
No way, I had cheese and crackers last night too.
Oh my God, it was so sweet, I thought, right? And then he says to me, all you need now is a glass of wine. I'm like, this kid's awesome.
Did you open the bottle of wine?
Well, duh.
See, I skipped the wine because I had cheese and crackers right before I went to bed.
Oh well, yeah, no, I don't eat before I go to bed. I can't do that. So I just thought that was really sweet. He had cheese and crackers for me when I got home.
That's awesome.
Really nice.
It's nice to have him back, right?
It is nice to have him back. So yeah, it was really nice. And then also right after that, literally I got a text from my neighbor. So my neighbors really look out for me. I have the best neighbors in the whole world. He texted me that he came over during the day, got my lawnmower started for the season, and ran my generator for a while, and he's like, everything's great. I'm like, you know what? That's just awesome.
That is great. So you're ready for the
I'm ready. If the lights go out,
summer, for the thunderstorm
ready.
Season.
Yeah, and now Aaron, who's home, can cut the grass today.
Not, is he actually going to? I know he can do it.
No, he is.
He's actually going to do it.
He is going to do it. So yeah.
Well, you have a responsible teenager there. That's pretty amazing.
So yeah, so I thought that was great. So nice. How about you? How was your weekend?
So Mother's Day weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually have a story to tell you.
Nice.
Tell me a story,
Do
right?
Tell, yeah.
So we, my daughter made my wife breakfast, and she made crepes, and then we traditionally on Mother's Day we always plant Kathy's garden. It's Kathy's garden, but Allie and I are in charge of it. So we planted our garden, and that was a lot of fun. And then our favorite restaurant opened up to indoor dining.
Nice.
So we were kind of excited about that because we've been doing takeout from this place, and you know us, we're the takeout king and queen. We take out a lot, especially during the pandemic. So we went to the restaurant, and we were all kind of excited, and lo and behold, they served us on paper plates, paper utensils, like plastic utensils, and we were like horrified, because I was ready for, it was just so weird, because we were in this nice restaurant, and they have like the Dixie plastic plates and the paper cups. It was kind of bizarre.
That is bizarre.
Yeah, so you asked for a glass of water, not a glass of water, a paper cup
cup of water.
Yeah,
Nice.
so that was interesting. The food was delicious. Thank God.
Good.
They have the same chef. They didn't lose him to the pandemic.
That's good.
But yeah, so we had paper utensils, which was interesting.
Yeah.
But it was still good. And we took home the leftovers and pigged out Sunday night.
Nice.
And it was all gone by Sunday night.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that was fun. It was a good weekend.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
let's get started with our interview. We were interviewing the boss today.
Now, when you say the boss,
I don't mean Bruce Springsteen.
You don't mean
Bruce Springsteen. I do not. I mean our boss, right? Isn't Ron the boss?
Well, Diane is the boss.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Diane's the boss.
Yeah,
let's get it right.
Let's be careful. Because don't forget, Diane signs the checks.
That's right.
So, Ron is the underboss.
Yes, the underboss.
He's like the guy
who's... Is that a word? Underboss?
It's like the mob.
Oh, wow.
Right? Diane's the godmother, and Ron's the underboss.
Oh.
Diane, as we say in Italian, Diane is capo di tutti capi.
What?
The head of all the heads.
The head of all the heads.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. But I guess
Why do you say that with a straight face?
What? Capo di tutti capi? So Ron is, I guess you'd call Ron the actual boss because he's actually running the show.
Yes.
Right? But Diane is the financial boss. Let's go there. So why don't we get to it?
Let's do it.
So when we say the boss, we're talking about the one and only
Ron Linhart.
Ron Linhart. So come on in, Ron.
Come on in.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello there.
Are we all
Thank you for
visible?
joining us today
Oh, you're
on our
welcome.
Facebook Live.
That's,
I was just thinking, I think you guys are going to regret this. When I first started early on, I was trying to figure out how to advertise, and I hired a radio station to do what they call a drop. And during the commercials, they were going to interview me about the store and how the radio was going to be. And I thought that was a great idea. And they were playing music, and she set up microphones and equipment, and all the stuff is set up going out to their band for the radio, and go to commercial. And she says to me, "So tell us about just." She said a yes and no question, like, "Are you happy to be here?" And I shook my head yes, but it was radio. And then she said, "You have to talk on the radio," and I shook my head yes. And it was not a great opportunity. So hopefully that'll go better today than it did for that.
Hopefully.
was that WRKL?
It was. I think the girl's name was Maggie Moore. Girl, she was obviously a woman, but I don't know because it was a long time ago.
And I think I
That's
remember
funny.
that studio was up on 202, right?
Yeah. Now I think it's Polski Radio. I think it's a Polish radio station. There's a sign there.
Yeah.
Really? That's what you got?
That's all I
Yeah.
got.
Is that Polish?
I don't know. It sounds like it could be, right?
I'm not sure about that.
I don't know either.
So Kathi and I have a bunch of questions for you and we know some of the answers, but I don't think our audience knows all the answers. So we're going to kind of rattle off some questions for you, and you graciously brought us some pictures. So I'm going to see if I can get this working. Let's see.
Oh, this is great. You have the questions right there, so I can pre-read them.
Yeah. We wrote our questions out, but
So
we
that
can't
we-
read them.
Alright.
Stop.
Oh, all right.
So that we wouldn't forget them, right?
So our first question was, and I kind of know a little bit of the backstory, and I think you do as well. But how did your family get involved in sewing?
Well, my grandfather started. You're not sharing up there. So did you want them to see that yet?
I
don't
do
care.
want them to see that. Oh, thank you. Hold on. Hold your story, Ron. Get to sharing here.
Don't tell anybody. There you go.
Okay. I think we're
Nice.
up. Okay.
So that's a picture of my grandfather poking his head out of Linhart Attachment Company, which was on 26th Street in Manhattan. So he was, he bounced around from a lot of different things, and he finally got an apprenticeship at an attachment maker, which is making parts for sewing machines. So he makes like little binders and hammers, the things that like on the end of Hanes underwear, that was a big encounter there, is that run around the seam. There's a tool that does that, and that tool is handmade. So he learned how to do that, and he had a store in Manhattan. And then my father came to work for him when he was, I think, 16, but he hated Manhattan. So he made my grandfather move the store out to Long Island, which is where I'm from. So they had a store in Baldwin, and eventually my grandfather retired. My father took over the business, and all my brothers, we all worked there. We learned how to make attachments, how to work with the metal. And I would watch my father repair sewing machines. My father brought in sewing machine repair because on Long Island, it was easier to get to parking and stuff, so people would come in and bring their machines for repair. And that's how I learned to repair sewing machines.
That's awesome. Did you worked in the shop, so you learned the business from the shop, but then how did you translate that into actually sewing? Like, I understand fixing the machines and stuff, but you had to also learn the techniques, right?
Yes, well, my father and my grandpa had machine shops. They didn't, metal shops. They didn't work with sewing at all, except to make the tools for real sewers. So I would, so when I went away to college, I decided I didn't want to work with my father. I didn't want to work in it's metal work, and it was fine, but I didn't want to do it. So I started working at a car rental place, which is actually how we met. When we were 19, we met at this car rental place called Snappy Car Rental. It's a really excellent place.
Fun times, let me tell you. We had some good times.
I can only
We were
imagine.
young, foolish, and had no responsibilities. So you can imagine it was fun.
And they let us drive cars all over the place.
Nice.
Yeah, and yeah, and drive them into the ground in a lot of cases.
Yeah, don't buy rental cars. So anyway, so then I knew how to repair sewing machines. So on the side, I would go on Saturdays. I placed the end of the penny saver, and I would go around to people's houses and fix their sewing machines. And I ran into this guy who had a store in Garnerville, which is where our first store was. And he hired me to work there. So I left the car rental and did that. and he was not a great businessman. So so he was going to go out of business realistically, and I didn't have any money though. But since he was going out of business, I was able to just take over his lease and kind of just open. So that worked out very well for us because I didn't have to support anything because Diane was the breadwinner. She had a job because if she didn't have a job, we would not have made it those first couple of years.
Nice.
Do you want to change pictures?
Yeah, let's go to the next one.
The next one should be my father.
Oh, look at that.
So that was, he and I went duck hunting, and I like photography, so I brought my camera with me. So I got that picture of him. I think that's one of the best shots of him, I think. That's pretty recent. It's probably like 8 years old. And that's an attachment. So that's something that attaches to a commercial machine, and you feed the fabric in, and you put it against the other fabric, and it puts it all together. That's talking about some of my hobbies.
Okay, well, why don't you tell us how you and Diane met all these years ago?
We met in college. Diane's from Rockland. She's actually from Garnerville, which is where the first store was. So we met in college, and then I moved up here. We knew we wanted to be together, but should she move to Long Island or should I move up here? But I had a boat, and it was a pretty big boat. It had a little cabin, so I moved up on the boat, and I lived in a marina, so that I could be near Diane and see if how this was all going to work out. And it worked out pretty well because it rained a lot that summer, and that boat leaked a heck of a lot from the top. It didn't leak from the bottom at all, but every time it would rain, it was a very rainy summer, Diane's father wouldn't let me sleep on the boat. So he'd make me come over to the house, they'd make me dinner, so it was a pretty good summer, and I decided that I liked it up here. And so we settled up here.
Nice.
I don't know if I'm remembering this correctly, but I remember when we were working together, whenever it would rain, you'd have to run up to the boat to close something or close a hatch or
Well, that's
something.
because I'm an idiot, and I would leave open the hatch so that it would have air, not realizing it might rain during the day, and the hatch was right over my bed. So if I didn't get that closed, I had a wet bed when I got home.
And you had a water bed.
Right, exactly. Not that it mattered, because Diane's father was going to invite me over anyway.
Nice.
So you started the business, you took over this store up in Garnerville, and it was a small store, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was about it was 1,300 square feet, which is kind of small for a retail store. We had folding tables for the displays originally. Eventually I built some wood cabinets into the sidewall. And we started there with Bernina, and then I wanted to bring on Bob, so I called Bob and I got an interview with the sales rep, Pam, and she came into the store. But that day, our babysitter was not available, and Diane had to work, and Diane was the one really supporting us because I was trying to get the store going. So I brought Rebecca in a car seat to the store, and we had that folding table. So I put the baby on the folding table. I had my papers here, and I talked to the FOF rep, and somehow she approved me. I do not understand why, because I didn't even have the money for a full opening order. She was working with me a little bit on that, but we got machines in, and we started selling.
That's great.
That's a great story.
That is a
yeah.
great story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then after, I think it was 13 years or so, or 15, it was a while, we really were outgrowing that space, and we moved to Nanuet. So we moved next door to where we are now. That was about double the space of what we had in Garnerville, and it was also more centrally located. I would get calls from people in New City who would say, I'd love to come up to you, but you're upstate. Now, New City is about 3 miles from Garnerville, but it's over the mountain, so people wouldn't do that. So in Nanuet, a lot more people came to us. Business really improved, and now it improved so much that we bought this building, which is the building next to where we originally moved. We took over 2 spaces, so we doubled our space again, and we have the whole basement, which is all storage. As you guys know, there's tons of machines down there, so we used to rent warehouse space. We don't have to do that anymore.
And we have a lot of those machines in stock. So if you're looking for a new
Yes,
sewing
we do.
machine,
Yeah,
come
we
to
do.
Above and Beyond Creative Sewing.
We
'cause
are
we're-
fully stocked
We are
now,
fully
yeah.
stocked on most models, right?
Yep.
Yeah, with the
Absolutely.
pandemic, that was very hard for us because you order stuff and it doesn't come in. It would take us 6 or 8 months to get certain models. But luckily, as soon as the pandemic started, I placed a really big order. I don't know why, but I figured I would help the companies by giving them an order, and I had all that stock. And then when you couldn't get anything, I already had it. So we were able to keep open during the whole pandemic. And there's been out of stock on some stuff, but we've been pretty good with that.
Yeah. So I think you have a pretty interesting story of how you learned to sew. Who did you learn to sew from?
So I worked with my father, and I would do building these little attachments, working with metal. But I would do side jobs, you know, whatever has to be done. So he had this account. It was a sewing store in the next town over, a fabric store, and they took in repairs, but they didn't repair them. I would go pick them up, bring them back to the store. My father would repair them, and a week later I would drive them back. So the woman who had that store was Rose Fisher. You may know the name Fisher if you know the Long Island Lolita, Amy Fisher. That was her daughter. So that was interesting. But Rose knew how to sew, obviously, and I had that boat, and I wanted to upholster the seats because they were pretty bad. So she showed me how to cut out the fabric and how to make the welting and how to put it all together. And that was my first real sewing experience, as I did the interior of that boat and the curtains and stuff.
Very cool.
Great, yeah,
So
that is cool.
we're talking about Amy Fisher of
Joey Buttafuoco,
Joey
Amy
Buttafuoco.
Fisher.
That's the one. That's
That
the
is
one.
the one.
I even bought, after all that happened, Rose closed her store and they got rid of their car, and I bought the car. So I wound up driving around in Amy Fisher's car for a while.
Yeah,
That's
we'll
pretty
just
wild.
leave that
Yeah,
one
leave it alone, yeah.
We're just gonna leave that
We're
right
gonna
there.
move on from here.
Cynthia
Yeah.
Impala. It was a nice car.
So that's great. That's a great story. Thank you for filling us in on all these missing details that we don't know. Now people are going to ask, what do you like to do? And I know some of our customers know what you do in your free time, but a lot don't. And so we want to try to round you out. What do you do in your free time? What are your hobbies? What are your interests?
I'm pretty round on my own. It's no problem. That's not a big deal. There's a couple things. I really like to fix things. That's what I like to do. It's like I like to tinker in the garage. I like to build things with wood. I like to work on motors. So I had a friend who has a farm, and he had in his barn, he had an old motorcycle, and it hadn't run since 1980. It was in really bad shape, but I thought it'd be a fun project. So I brought it home in my pickup truck, put it in the garage, and it took me about 2 years, but I got it running. I got everything working, got the brakes working and all that, and I had never ridden before. So Diane said I could get my license if I promised to always wear a helmet. So I said yes. Then I rode it around. I got it running. I rode it around the backyard in the grass just to test it, but I didn't wear a helmet. And she yelled, I didn't know that was part of the rules. I was just going around the corner in the yard. It wasn't on the road.
She said.
She did. So from then on, I've always worn a helmet. And then I got into motorcycles because it's a lot cheaper than cars, because those were kind of expensive.
And more fun.
They can be, yes. I try to get my friends into motorcycle riding. I had a really good friend who went motorcycle riding with me, and that didn't work out necessarily so well.
Present. Had a little mishap on my motorcycle.
A little
So
mishap.
I am no longer riding a motorcycle.
Aw.
I did trade it in though. I have a beautiful red tricycle now.
Did it come with a clown suit?
It comes with the clown suit, yes,
Nice.
and it's got pedals, and it's really easy, and
That's awesome.
I don't have to wear a helmet.
I let me ride on the back once. It was a lot of fun. So the picture that's up now is my brother Matthew is in the sewing business, actually. He worked for my father also, but he didn't like making the metal so much either. So he started doing boat canvas. So he's a canvas maker, and he does a lot of upholstery. And this seat was not comfortable for me, so I went into his shop, and I said, hey, Matt, help me here. And we took it all apart, and we re-stuffed the middle and redesigned it and put it together. But at the same time, my Honda, the old motorcycle that I had found in the barn, had a torn seat. So he then helped me how to reupholster that. So that's the next picture. So that one was, I don't have pictures of it before, but trust me, it was pretty torn.
I can attest to that. I remember that motorcycle. It was a disaster, and he made it run like new. It was really remarkable.
So that's what that picture is. So again, that's sewing, but also it's fixing things. That's really what I like to do. I don't remember what I gave you next, but so I have a friend who has a golf cart, and it wouldn't go up a hill with both of us in it, and we just thought it was because we were too fat. So one of us got out, it still wouldn't go up the hill. So what I did was I figured out what was wrong, and I took apart the whole motor. You can see there it's completely in pieces, and I ordered all the right parts, and then I rebuilt it, which is the next picture, and then put it back together, and it actually runs pretty good now. So that was fun. And then this is my motorcycle. The handlebars were too short because I'm a short guy, and I had to reach all the time, so I put on bigger handlebars, but that's quite an involved job, so I just took a picture of that. You had to really get it apart to put that all together. This is a fun picture. He doesn't know I did this, but my nephew Anthony works here. He fixes sewing machines, and he's into cars. And he bought this car, and he was working on it, and he was like, I don't know how to get the engine out. And for like 3 weeks, I'd hear him saying he's not sure what to do next. So one night I just showed up, and we got there, and there was some stuff that was there, and I just ripped it out. And he's like, "You can do that?" I'm like, "Yes, you can do that." And then we pulled the motor out of the car, and he was so happy. It was just a great night. It was cold. That was like January. He's in a sweatshirt, but I was in much more clothes. It was very cold.
You may recognize Anthony there. He's our technician.
Yeah. So I also like to raise chickens. So these are my chicks from this year. There's 21 of them there, and we raise them from chicks till they come up. Then we put them out into the coop. They stay in the house when they're younger because it's too cold, which is really a problem because I have asthma. But we closed them in a room, and it all worked out. We put them outside, and then I went to dinner at a friend's house. And the chickens were outside, and I have an electric door that goes up and down, and it goes up in the morning and it goes down at night so that the chickens are safe. For whatever reason, that one night I wasn't home, half the chickens didn't go into the coop, they stayed out. And another thing, for whatever reason, a fox happened to go by that night, and I lost 13 chickens that night. It was brutal. But I still have 8 chickens, they're doing very well, and they're in the coop now.
And a well-fed fox.
Yes. I saw him again this morning. I gotta do something. I'm gonna figure something out.
By the way, did he use the barbecue grill or did he roast them?
I think I roasted them. So those are the chicks that are a little bit older. So it's just another picture of the chickens. And I also like to keep bees. So I get the honey from the bees. A friend of mine had given me honey once out of her bees, and I was like, "This is the most amazing thing ever." I don't buy this in the store. I have to do this myself. Rather than just going to someone who keeps bees and buying honey, I said, "No, I'll just grow the bees." So I started a couple years ago, and I had a couple of hives. This year they all froze. We moved, Ann and I moved, and where I put them, there was not enough sun in the winter. It was too cold, so they all froze. So I'm taking this year off because I don't know where to put them where they're warm enough. But I gave my hives to my daughter, and she started keeping bees this year.
Did you try Pensacola?
Yeah, I couldn't commute that far.
Oh, wait, and I had the honey that you made a couple years ago that you gave me.
I didn't make it myself.
Oh.
I harvested it.
Well, whatever. Harvest. That's a weird word, right? Whatever you did to it, I had a sample and it was delicious.
One day
So,
last year, Albert called me. There's all bees outside his house, and this is a picture of those bees. And I captured those bees. I put them in a bucket, and I brought them home and put them in a hive, and they actually did really well until they froze this winter. Really great stories I have, huh?
Those
Yeah,
are New
really.
Jersey bees. New Jersey bees are just unreliable. They're too used to the warm weather.
They're wonderful.
Is that honey?
That's honey. That's honey. This is from, I said I'm into photography. This is a barn that I was in. Notice the wood pegs up at the top there. That actually that's how they constructed it. They drilled holes and slam pegs, and it's just pretty amazing. I have 2 pictures of just my photography. This one and the next one. This was just, it's a headlight on, but I work with the light to make sure that you can see anything around it. So
Is that from like an old car or something?
No, that's actually my motorcycle.
Oh, that's neat.
And one of my other hobbies is hunting. So that's my brother Matthew. So he and I went on a hunting trip 2 years ago, and these are the hounds. It was really a great trip. There were 4 of us that went up together. It was all the way up in Maine. We got Matt's van. He took all his canvas stuff out, and we all sat back there and drove up to Maine and spent a week up there. It was a lot of fun. And this is my daughter Rebecca. So she likes everything I do, going out in the woods and the hunting and stuff like that, but she didn't want to actually hunt, which I understood. But she hunts anyway as a biologist. And this is a bird that she caught, and she's drawing blood from it right there for an experiment she was doing, tracking birds from the Bay of Fundy to Brazil. And they were tracking the rate that they grow fat and how they migrate. So that's her. And so she took after me with all of the outside stuff, and she just hunts a different way. She doesn't kill them. She treats them and helps them to survive in this world.
And she spent a lot of time in Brazil.
She did. She was actually in Brazil at the beginning of the pandemic. She evacuated out, and she's good now, but she got COVID on the way back because of the airport. She had to go through it. But she's great, actually. And this is my friend's farm, and that's my favorite tractor. That's a 1968 Massey Ferguson. When I got up there, it didn't run, so I rebuilt all of that and got that all running. And then we borrowed a plow from a guy down the road, and we plowed the field with it. We plant stuff. We planted corn. We planted beans. It's just a hobby. We all get up there and enjoy ourselves.
That's a lot of fun.
And that's the same tractor going the other way. I just like that tractor. But then I bought a tractor for my house so that I could move dirt, play with stuff at home.
It's like a big Tonka truck, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Look how happy,
Yeah.
look how happy he
Look at
is.
his face.
This is what I like to do. I told my daughter I want to
That's
farm
awesome.
when I retire, and she said, "You don't want to farm. You just want to drag tractors over things." I said, "Yeah, that's pretty much it." So that's a wall that I built. It's just like things I like to do. I like to work outside, so that I built a retaining wall, dug it out, and then used the tractor to track pack everything down.
Anytime I ever had a construction project in my house, I would call Ron to help me
Well,
because he knew what to do.
I always say he's like MacGyver because he can
Yes.
take something out of anything and make it work. It's amazing.
Yeah,
It's
he
really
took,
crazy.
together we took, on my first house, we subdivided, because we had these giant rooms upstairs.
Yeah, that was a big job.
And we subdivided those rooms to make extra bedrooms, and we did the walls, we did everything.
Yeah, I
thanks
mean,
to Ron's
Al did all the work during the week, but on the weekends I went over and
Yeah.
we spent a lot of time doing that.
And we built a bunch of outbuildings together. We've just done a lot of building. Building's fun.
Yeah, opportunity to go outside.
Aww.
So every time one of these meetings goes on, Kathy shows her cat, Diane was showing Mabel. No one's seen this picture. This is the day we got Mabel.
Oh my god.
We got her at a shelter in Manhattan, and it was at a foster family. And that was her when we picked her up. We put her in the car, and she didn't know what was going on.
So cute.
She
Oh my
is
God, is that
adorable.
That's
adorable?
what I got.
That's well.
Aw.
That's great.
That was
Thank you so
awesome.
much for
Yes,
this.
thank you.
This history lesson of Ron. We're so excited.
You're welcome. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the two of you. I know you're all enjoying this. I can see by the comments and everything, but this was their idea, and they do a lot of work to entertain all of us. So thank you, Al and Kathy.
We have just as much fun
We
as
do have
everybody
fun.
else.
It is a lot of fun. Great.
So thank you again, Ron.
Yes.
I really appreciate you coming and telling us
sharing
all
the
this,
story.
all
Yeah,
this
it's
interesting
great.
stuff.
You're welcome.
And, we will be back next week.
Next week, Wednesday, yep, at
Next
9:30.
Wednesday at 9:30, and we have we're going to hopefully have our quilt finished. We'll be able to show you.
Yes.
So that'll be exciting.
Yep, that'll be
And,
nice.
We don't know who our guest is going to be just yet for next
Not
week.
quite
We're
yet,
not
but
100%
yeah,
sure.
we'll have somebody here.
We will.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If not, we'll just chat for a little bit.
We'll wing it, right?
We'll wing
As
it.
we say?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thanks for joining us.
Take
Bye-bye.
care, bye-bye.
Thank you.